I'm still writing my essay. Why did I not just get my copy of the Iliad and read it out loud? That seems so much easier. Hi. So I have decided that instead of writing that essay, I'm just gonna get my copy of the Iliad and read it. Except I kind of hate the version I have. It's a children's version, so fuck, get in. Hi. Wait, so Ray, I have decided that I'm just gonna read my copy of the Iliad because I'm like not bothered to write it. So, but it's a kid's version, so it might be like a little dumb off. Crap, my headphone's coming out. Okay. Also, I hate the illustration in this, so if you hear me like hating on it, then that's why. Okay. Crap. Okay, I need to set somewhere else because my iPad keeps falling. Yes, I'm an iPad kid. Don't judge. Okay, get your popcorn ready for the Homer's Iliad. It's a Gillian Cross's translation. Okay, this is the story of a bitter quarrel between two proud and powerful men. The quarrel grew into a war that brought death to hundreds of brave heroes and destroyed one of the greatest cities of the world, and yet it started with something very small. I guess it's chapter 1, The Golden Apple. It all began with an apple, a golden apple, engraved with the words, "For the fairest." 3 goddesses tried to claim it, but which of them was really the most beautiful? Was it Hera, the wife of Zeus, king of the gods? Or Athena, the goddess of wisdom? Or Aphrodite, the goddess of love? To settle the argument, 3 goddesses left their home on high Olympus and went to find Paris, Prince of Troy. They found him on Mount Ida, where they appeared in front of him in all their loveliness. "Who should have this apple?" they said. "Choose one of us." Paris was dazzled and terrified, but the 3 goddesses were determined to have an answer. They began to offer him bribes. "Choose me," said Hera. "I will give you power and make you a great ruler." Do you want me to skip to the actual Trojan War, or... Because, I don't have to read the foreplay. Okay, wait, the foreplay is important. "Choose me," said Athena. "I will ensure that you win all your battles and become a famous warrior." Aphrodite smiled silkily. "Choose me," she murmured, "and you shall have the most beautiful woman in the world for your wife." Aphrodite's bribe was the one that delighted Paris, but it cast a long and deadly shadow. The most beautiful woman in the world was Helen of Sparta, but she was already married to Sparta's king, Menelaus. Aphrodite knew that, but she promised Helen to Paris, and he stretched out his hand and gave her the apple. And the quarrel that began on Olympus boiled over into the human world. With Aphrodite's help, Paris set out to steal the king of Sparta's wife. He was already handsome, but she made him irresistible. Dazzled and entranced, Helen left her husband, and she and Paris ran off to Troy together, with the ships full of Spartan treasure. Menelaus was outraged, so was his brother Agamemnon, high king over all the Greeks. Apart from Thessaly, which this book doesn't mention, he hadn't conquered Thessaly. Wait, no, he had conquered Thessaly, never mind. The 2 brothers called on the other kings of Greece to help them fetch Helen back. The quarrel that started with an apple spread wider and wider in every part of Greece. Kings gathered their armies, fleets of long ships set sail for Troy, carrying heroes with names that will live forever. Quick-witted, "I am the infamous Odysseus!" Wait, no. Odysseus of Ithaca! Do you know who I am? Wise old Nestor, king of Pylos, valiant Diomedes from Argos, and noble Ajax, who ruled Salamis. Mighty of all was Achilles, the great runner, son of the sea nymph Thetis. His bronze armor gleamed. I also have the Odyssey if you want me to read that after, but this is over 100 pages, so. His bronze armor gleamed as he led his fierce Myrmidon soldiers onto their ships. The Greeks attacked as soon as they landed on the Trojan coast, but Troy was not an easy city to conquer. It was protected by rivers on two sides and surrounded by strong high walls, and King Priam, Paris's father, refused to hand Helen back. Instead, he called on his allies to help him defend the city. He had 50 sons, every one of them ready to fight for Helen and her treasure. They were all brave men, but the bravest of all, and the noblest warrior, was Prince Hector, tamer of horses. The Greeks could not fight their way into Troy, but they refused to leave without Helen. Pulling their longships up onto the beach, they built huts on the shore and settled down to lay siege on the city. No one guessed how long it would take. 9 years later, they were still there, living in the same cramped huts. They were still fighting battles on the plain in front of Troy, still trying to breach the city walls. They would not give up and abandon the war, but all of them longed for the homes they'd left behind in Greece. No wonder they began to quarrel among themselves. Oh God, we're up to the family tree. So, I'm not reading that because the illustrations make me want to vomit and throw up violently. Chapter 2? The Quarrel. Like the quarrel that started the war in the first place, this quarrel was about a woman. The Greeks had captured several Trojans, and Agamemnon had seized a beautiful girl named Chrysis. Her father was a priest of the god Apollo, and he wanted his daughter back. He came to the Greek ships with a cart full of treasure, determined to ransom her. But Agamemnon refused to take the treasure. He treated the old man rudely and sent him away. Apollo was furious at the insult to his priests. He swooped down on the Greek ships with arrows carrying plague. You named one of your oaths baddie. Day and night, for 9 days, he shot arrows at the mules and dogs and men. The whole Greek camp was devastated by disease and death. Achilles realized why the plague had hit them. It is your fault, he said to Agamemnon. I'm trying to figure out if I'm saying it right. I say Agamemnon. Agamemnon. I am saying it right. Let the old priest take his daughter back, otherwise we'll have to go up and go home. Agamemnon flew into a rage. You've taken captions too. Why should I give up mine while you hang on to yours? If I have to send Chryses back, I want another woman instead. You can give me one of yours. I'll take Briseis. Not Briseis. Why should I suffer? Achilles shouted. My men and I deserve some reward for fighting your war. If you're going to take everything away, we might as well go home. We have no quarrel with the Trojans. I am your king, thundered Agamemnon. You have sworn to obey my orders. That was true. But Achilles refused to back down. Storming off to his hut, he ordered all his men to withdraw from the fighting. Agamemnon knew there was only one way to end the plague. He had to give up the old priest's daughter. But he was in command of the Greek army, and he couldn't allow Achilles to defy him. So when he sent Chryses back to her father, he dispatched 2 of her soldiers to Achilles' hut to fetch Briseis. Briseis didn't want to go with him. When she came out of the tent, she was crying bitterly. But Agamemnon's orders had to be obeyed. The soldiers hustled her away, and Achilles was left alone, staring out to sea. He wept with rage and humiliation. How can Zeus treat me like this? He shouted across the water. Doesn't he care about me? Deep in the ocean, his mother Thetis had him. She came up floating up through the clear blue water, and he drifted onto the beach. Why so sad? She said, stroking her son with a hand as delicate as mist. Achilles told her bitterly. He was furious and he wanted revenge. Whatever it cost other people. I want to see the Greek army on the run, he said. Go and plead with Zeus to help the Trojans. When the Greek army is penned in among those ships, when his soldiers are being slaughtered, maybe Agamemnon realized how stupid he was to lose me and my Myrmidons. Damn. Do you want me to stop reading or not? Because you can always rewatch this live when I end it. You'll rewatch? Okay, I'll keep reading then. Because keep listening to the Iliad. Bye! Fun fact, I learned recently that one of my friends actually watches my live streams. If you're here, hello. Anyways, Thetis gazed at him with her eyes full of tears. She knew he was fated to die young. How could she refuse him anything when he had such a short time to live? I'll go straight to Zeus, she said. Leaving Achilles on the shore, she flew to Mount Olympus, where the gods watched over the human world. She flung herself in Zeus's feet and clasped his knees. Mighty father, She said, "Now you know that my dear son Achilles is doomed to die young. Now Agamemnon has robbed and assaulted him. Give Achilles his revenge. Let the Trojans win every battle until justice is done." Zeus looked down at her and sighed. The gods were divided over the war in Troy, and Hera, his wife, was a fierce supporter of the Greeks. But Thetis was looking up at him with tears and had lovely eyes, and he couldn't resist her grief. Reluctantly, he nodded. "I will do it," he said. First, Zeus sent Agamemnon a false dream to deceive him. In the dream, Agamemnon saw himself talking to old Nestor, wisest of the Greek kings. "Get up, Agamemnon," said the dream Nestor. "Now is the time to lead your armies out. If you attack now, you will defeat the Trojans and break down the walls of Troy. Remember this." Agamemnon woke and sat up, shaken by his vivid dream. Calling the other kings together, he told them to prepare for battle. "I have had a message from Zeus," he said. "We shall win this fight." All along the seashore, the men began polishing their armor and harnessing the chariot horses. Bronze glittered in the sunlight, and the earth shook with the thunder of Hera's feet as the Greeks prepared to attack. Oh god, these illustrations actually make me want to die. But everything was quiet and still around Achilles' ships. Achilles was sulking inside his hut, refusing to do anything. Hold up. Refusing to forget his quarrel with Agamemnon, and the Myrmidons were strolling around idly, watching their horses graze. None of them would be part of this battle. From inside the city, the Trojans saw what the Greeks were doing. At once they prepared to meet them. They marched out the Scaean? They're that bad. If I could show you them, wait, after this live I'll do a community post, but they are actually horrid. I mean, they're like good illustrations, but I just don't like them personally. They marched up through the Scaean gate and formed lines on a mound called Daunt Hill, but they weren't looking forward to the fight, and there was still a chance of avoiding a full-scale battle. As the Greek army approached, Paris stepped out of the Trojan lines. He was dressed in a panther skin, with his bow in hand. "Is any Greek brave enough to meet me in single combat?" he shouted. "If we settle the war like that, hundreds of lives will be saved." Menelaus leaped forward instantly, hungry for the fight. He was eager to kill Paris and win back his wife. Glaring furiously at the Trojans, he began to buckle on his armor. Inside Troy, King Priam and his counselors were sitting on the city wall, high above the Scaean gate. They didn't hear what Paris said, but they saw what was happening, and they leaned together, muttering anxiously. As they were talking, Helen came walking along the ramparts. She was weeping at the sight of the two armies drawn up for battle, and her tears made her lovelier than ever. "How beautiful she is," the old men whispered to one another. "But oh, if only she had never come to Troy." King Priam beckoned her over. "Tell me," he said, "which of these Greek heroes is Agamemnon? Where is Menelaus and Odysseus, Ajax and Diomedes, and which is Achilles?" Helen looked down from the wall. "Achilles isn't there," she said, "but the tall, handsome man is Agamemnon, and the others—" One by one she pointed them out to Priam. The sound of their names made her ache with longing for her lost home in Sparta. But it was too late now to undo what happened. However sad she was, she could not end the war. Down below, Paris and Menelaus were fighting each other with their weapons in their hands, but watching over the scene, the goddess Aphrodite had no intention of letting them fight. She knew that Menelaus was faster and stronger, and she didn't want to see Paris killed. As Menelaus attacked, she stood beside Paris, ready to protect him. Menelaus grabbed at Paris's helmet, dragging him off his feet and throttling him with the helmet strap. Quickly, Aphrodite broke the strap and sent Menelaus staggering back. Is it Menelaus or Menelaus? Staggering backward. Then she wrapped Paris in a thick mist and snatched him away from the battlefield. She whisked him into the city and laid him down on his own soft, scented bed. Menelaus was still trying to fight, but when he threw his spear to the mist, it clattered without hitting anything. Then the mist cleared and Paris had vanished. Menelaus knew that one of the gods had interfered. Now there was no chance to stop the battle. The Greek chariot surged forward, like a great wave of the sea, and the two armies clashed head-on, with spears and swords and arrows. The killing began. Inside the walls of Troy, the Greeks were bitterly aware that Achilles was missing, but they fought like lions. Diomedes fell on the Trojans like a whirlwind, and the goddess Athena went with him, turning the enemy's spears away from his chariot. It looked as though the Trojans would be forced back inside the city. But Hector wasn't ready to be defeated. He leaped down from his chariot and ran along the Trojan lines, shouting encouragement. "Be brave, my friends. Hold on to your positions. I'll go into the city and offer a sacrifice to the gods. We will not be beaten." The Trojans were inspired by his speech. They began to fight even more ferociously. Leaving his cousin Aeneas in charge of the army, Hector strode through the gate and into the city. As he entered his father's palace, he met his mother, Queen Hecuba. She caught hold of his hand, amazed to see him there in the middle of a battle. "What's happening?" she cried. "Have the Greeks reached our city walls? You must be exhausted. Let me fetch you a cup of wine." "There is no time for drinking," Hector said. "We must win Athena over to our side. Take your most beautiful precious robe to her temple and offer it on the altar. Promise her a splendid sacrifice if she will only save our city. Quickly!" Hecuba hurriedly to do as he asked, and Hector went to look for his brother Paris. He caused all this bloodshed, he thought angrily. How dare he sulk inside the city like a coward? He burst into the splendid palace that Paris had built for himself, and marched through one room after another, ignoring the servants. Finally, he found Paris in the bedroom, polishing his beautiful armor. Helen sat beside him, doing embroidery. "What are you doing here?" Hector shouted furiously. "All the other Trojan warriors are risking death to keep the Greeks out of Troy. You should be ashamed." "I know," said Paris smoothly, "but I was mortified at being snatched away from my fight with Menelaus. I've been too embarrassed to return to the battle, but Helen keeps telling me I should. I'll come with you, if you wait while I strap on my armor." Helen joined in hastily, trying to calm Hector's anger. "Forgive us both. We know this whole war is our fault. Sit down for a moment while Paris gets ready." "You're very kind," Hector said coldly, "but I haven't got time to sit and chatter. I'm going home to see my wife and son, in case I don't survive this battle." He hurried away, leaving Paris and Helen in the bedroom, but when he reached his own house, Andromache, his wife, wasn't there. She heard the battle was going badly, said one of her ladies. So she ran out to see what was happening, and the nurse went after her, carrying baby Astyanax. Hector rushed off to find Andromache. As he reached the skying gate, she came running toward him with the nursemaid behind her, carrying Astyanax, Hector's darling son. Andromache burst into tears and caught hold of her husband's hand. "What will I do if you're killed?" she cried. "You're all I have. Don't make me a widow and leave our son an orphan. Stay inside the city and rally your troops from the top of the great tower." "I can't hide in here like a coward," Hector said quietly. "I must do everything I can to keep the Greeks out of Troy. If they win, they'll sack the city and carry you off as slaves. May the earth lie deep over my dead body before that happened." He reached out to take his son, but Astyanax had never seen his father in full armor, and Hector's huge armor terrified him. He cowered away from its quivering horsehair plume. Hector and Andromache laughed tenderly as Hector lifted off his helmet and put it on the ground. Then he took Astyanax in his arms and gave him a kiss. "If you're new here, hi, I'm reading the Iliad. May Zeus make you strong and brave," he whispered, "so that men say he's a better man than his father. May you triumph in battle and make your mother happy." He handed the baby to Andromache, and as she smiled at him through her tears, deeply moved, Hector stroked her face. "Try not to grieve," he said. "We can't escape the fate that is fixed for us. Go home and keep our household running smoothly. That's your work, and you do it well. My work is to fight for our city. I must go back to the battle." Oh, 3 people again. That's crazy. "Who are you?" I'm kidding. He put on his helmet and strapped it up. Andromache started home with Astyanax in her arms, but she kept looking back at Hector over her shoulder, weeping bitterly. She had a terrible feeling that she would never see him alive again. As Hector turned toward the gate, Paris, full of life and vigor, came hurrying down to join him. His armor gleamed in the sun, and he was laughing. "I'm sorry I kept you waiting," he said. "I know you were eager to get back to the fight." "I was only trying to protect your reputation," Hector said gravely. You were the one who plunged us all into this war, and I don't want to hear other Trojans calling you a coward. If I'm doing you an injustice, I'll make amends when this war is over, if Zeus lets us win. Without waiting for a reply, he turned away and walked out through the gate, back into the battle. Single combat, ooh. The sight of Hector and Paris revived the troops like a blast of fresh air. The two princes jumped into the chariots. Drive straight at the Greek lines, they ordered the charioteers. If you're new here, hi, I'm reading the Iliad. As the chariots galloped forward, they both launched their weapons, throwing straight and hard. Two Greeks fell dead on the ground in front of them. Suddenly, the exhausted Trojans were full of energy. Charging forward, they sent their spears hurtling through the air. Now it was the Greeks who were on the defensive. Hi, I'm great. I'm currently, from request of others, reading the Iliad. So, they were forced to give ground. Athena was horrified to see them falling. She swept down from Mount Olympus, but before she could do anything to help, her way was barred by Apollo. She glared at him. I know you support the Trojans, and I know you want the Greeks to win, said Apollo. You can't wait to see them conquer Troy and ban it to the ground. But wouldn't you like this terrible killing to stop? Just for a while. Athena looked doubtful. Is that possible? If we work together, said Apollo, we can inspire Hector to make a noble gesture. Let's get him to agree to a Greek champion to single combat. Athena agreed. She and Apollo laid aside their quarrel for the time being and went to find Prince Helenus, one of Hector's brothers. He had the gift of second sight and could hear messages from the gods. They whispered to him, and, even in the middle of the fighting, he knew what they were saying, immediately. He struggled through the battle to Hector's chariot. Brother, he said, I have a message from the gods. Tell the soldiers to stop fighting, then offer to meet one of the Greeks in single combat. The gods have promised that you won't die. Hector was delighted by the idea. Stepping into the space between the two armies, he held the spear in front of the Trojans, signaling them to sit down. Puzzled and cautious, Agamemnon stepped out to join him, waving his spear so that the Greeks sat down too. With a clatter, the two great armies sank to the ground, facing each other across no man's land. Suddenly, the whole plain was still and silent. Athena and Apollo looked down to the great sea of warriors, transforming themselves into vultures. Wait, hold up. Athena and Apollo looked down at the great sea of warriors. Transforming themselves into vultures, they flew into a tall oak tree and settled there, waiting to see what would happen. Hector turned toward the Greek army. I am Hector, Prince of Troy, he shouted. Is any Greek brave enough to face me in single-handed? If so, I challenge him to step forward and fight me now, in front of both our armies. If he kills me, he can take my armor, but he must send my body home to Troy for a proper funeral. If I kill him, his armor will go to Troy to hang in Apollo's temple, but I will return his body to your ships, so that you can build him a funeral pyre and make a burial mound for his bones. Who will accept my challenge? The Greeks knew what a great warrior Hector was. They stared at him nervously, and no one spoke. At last Menelaus scrambled to his feet. This is shameful, he yelled at his comrades. Sit there and rot if you like. I'm going to fight Hector. A dozen other Greeks leaped forward to stop him. Everyone knew that Menelaus was no match for Hector. Don't throw your life away for nothing, brother, said Agamemnon. Sit down. We'll find someone to make Hector regret this challenge. I'd go if I were young enough, shouted Nestor, but I am an old man now, and all the rest of you are cowards. Sorry, it's getting really dark right now, so if I, struggle to read, that's why. His angry accusation had men leaping to their feet. Agamemnon himself was first, followed by the great Diomedes of Argos. Then Ajax of Salamis and Odysseus of Ithaca. Odysseus, wait. All clamoring to be chosen. Why would Odysseus want to do this? We'll draw lots, Nestor said wisely. He took off his helmet and held it out. Each of them marked a stone and dropped it in. The soldiers knew who the greatest warriors are. As Nestor shook the helmet, the whole Greek army was praying. Let it be Ajax or Diomedes, or great Agamemnon himself. Zeus, let it be a worthy champion. The praise were answered. The stone that came out of the helmet carried the mark of Ajax of Salamis. He was delighted. Pray for me while I put on my armor, he called to the soldiers. So the troops went on praying, looking up into the sky. Father Zeus, let Ajax win. Or, if you love Hector too much to let him be defeated, then may the fight be drawn. But don't let Ajax be beaten. Inspired by their prayers, Ajax took up a shield and marched out to meet Hector. Why is this copy of the Iliad so freaking long? I'm only on page 38 and I've been live for almost half an hour. Now you'll see what it's like to face a true Greek warrior, he said. Achilles may be out of the battle for now, but there are still plenty of us who can match you, Trojan. Defend yourself. Hector raised his head and his helmet flashed in the sun. You won't scare me with words. I grew up with a spear in my hand. Take guard, invader. With all the power in his body, he threw his long javelin. Ajax caught the weapon on his shield, but the point sliced through its bronze surface, cutting deep into the leather behind it. The impact threw him backwards. Okay, guys, I cannot... What page am I on, crap? 38. So right now, I cannot read because it is so dark upstairs. So bear with me while I go turn the light on because the light switch is far away from where I'm sitting. Frick out. Okay. Light on. Iliad reading is about to continue. But just give me 1 second. Okay. Okay, let me find my page and then the Iliad continues. Okay, what page was I on? 38. Noah, if you're there, you should say something in chat. Okay. Recovering his balance, he swung out his own spear even harder. Hector swerved sideways, thrusting out his shield, and Ajax's spear went through it, ripping the side of Hector's tunic. If Hector hadn't dodged quickly, he would have been dead. The two men fell on each other like wild boars. Ajax's spear grazed Hector's neck, drawing blood. In reply, Hector snatched up a jagged rock and threw it so hard that it made Ajax's shield clang like a bell. Ajax threw an even bigger rock. It dented Hector's shield and knocked him off his feet. But... hold up, let me just log into my account. Okay. Drawing his sword, he ran at Ajax. They fought until the sun went down and the light began to fall. Then heralds came running out from the two armies. You're both great warriors, they shouted. Zeus loves you both too much to see you hacking at each other in the dark. Ajax lowered his sword. Hector challenged me to fight. Is he ready to stop? You're a mighty warrior, Hector answered, but we can hardly see each other. Let us stop for today and exchange gifts to show our respect for each other. He held out his silver-studded sword to Ajax. Ajax accepted the sword and gave Hector his magnificent purple belt. Then as night fell, the Greeks went back to the ships and the Trojans retreated inside the city walls. So that is page 41. I am going to end this live stream and title it Venora Reads the Iliad Part 1. So if you're in this live, it was lovely to read. Comment on one of my videos when you want me to continue reading the Iliad, as I'm happy to do so. Goodbye.